Okay, adventurers, we're back on the bike, putting it together today. So we're going to start with the shafts and then go through and do some fluids and different things. So let's get straight into it. We're going to put all the shafts back in, grease them up and basically get it so it can run, but I won't put the tyres on. I'll leave them off until I do the brakes and the fluids just for easy access. So let's go. This is the end that goes in the bike. We need to grease that up. That goes in here where this rag is. We need to grease that up so that moves. We need to put the clip, this clip here, back on there because that's what holds it in. So that's what we'll do to start with, and then wriggle it in. We should be able to just push this in. I'm led to believe. Get that lined up. Give it a wriggle. So there you go, got the axles in, both of them. Took a bit of mucking around to get those in, but yeah, second one went in easier once you work out the best angle of the dangle. So let's get all the hubs and all that on. Hubs under there, so we'll just fit all that up, tighten it all up, and we'll be back up and running as far as the rear axle. Bit of anti-seize, so that comes off next time, especially since it's going to be on the beach. Two washers. I should go that way and that way. That'll just hold this on until I tighten it up. I'll put a bit of anti-seed on a lot of this because if it does beach work, we want to be able to repair it. They've got like nylock nuts on anyway. So I'll leave that one loose. So that one, put a little bit on this. You don't want too much on because you want to be able to get it off at some point. Come on, start. There we go. That's 5/8. Okay, now we'll do up this big nut, and I might get a proper socket for that. Stick this in here to stop it turning. Cap on. There you go, that's one axle. Okay, so we'll do the other side. It's exactly the same, so I'll catch you after I've done the other side. This is now all back on. Both of the hubs are back on. The only thing I noticed, which must have been the same as the last one, is that that boot comes close to that bolt, but it has to because that's basically steel under there, so it must have been the same last time, I just didn't notice it. But all that's back on. So now we're going to move to these front brakes. And these are all okay as checked, but we're just going to put them back on. push those pistons back in. There we go. Give it enough gap to get on the disc. And I'm going to drain all the fluid out of these and bleed these brakes with new fluid, which is just a matter of pouring it in the top and pumping it through. I'll do that later on. Good and tight. Okay, we'll do the other side, and it's the same as this side, so I'll see you after that. That's all the brakes on, back and front both sides, and the back one's over here. That's those on, and now we're going to put the belt on and this belt cover. So we've got a new belt, some parts in the parts box. We're going to stick this one on, and this other one, this older one, will be the spare. It's in pretty good nick, so that'll be the spare in case you have to change it on the run. But let's get that belt on. We can then get the side cover back on, so let's do that. You've just got to work this thing around this sheave here. So that's loose. You just stick it in this sheave and you pretty well just work it around without making sure you don't damage it or nick it too much. Just got to be careful. Try and keep it in line as much as possible so you get the maximum amount of looseness, and then just work it around. There we go. Just going to make sure we don't damage it. And that's it, drive belt on. Now we can stick the black cover on. There we go, that's it. So there's a seal around here, you just got to be careful that that stays in the right place. We'll have a look. Looks to be okay. There we go. And then that should just there. And then put the screws back in. Just go into the plastic. We'll just get a couple started. So that's drive belt on, and I'm just going to put the step on because that's still loose. We'll bolt that down, and then I think we're on to some fluids, maybe change out some oils. Belt and belt cover is on. Now we start on the fluids. I've got a box of oils. We'll go and start dropping the oils in the front diff, transfer case, and the rear. I might have to do the front one and put the front wheels back on, so I might even do the brakes first so I can put the wheels back on. Let's get on with doing that. Onto the brakes. That's the master cylinder. I've got some .4 brake fluid. The difference between the dots, .3, .4, is really just the boiling point of the brake fluid at out of the bottle and when it has some moisture in there. So .4 has a higher boiling point, so for disc brakes and things that get hot, but it can replace .3. You just got to be careful not to use .5, which is a silicon based brake fluid which doesn't mix. So what I'll do is normally I like to get different color and push it through until I see the color change, but it's hard to get different colors. They all seem to be like a straw colored, so I'll just punch the whole lot of this through and that should flush everything out of the brake system. So let's get on with that. So what you do here is you squeeze the handle while simultaneously opening up the bleed nipple, and you just pump it out. So once you get to full depression, you close the bleed nipple and let it go back and prime the master cylinder again, and then you just repeat. So open the bleed valve, pump, close, release until you pump enough through, making sure you never run out of fluid here. If you run out of fluid here, you get air in the system and you've got to pump the air all the way through. So that's what we'll do, and till we've done all of the three, well it's actually four, so there's 3 main brakes, and then there's also the foot brake, which goes into the same disc brake at the back. So we'll get onto that. That's the brakes done. Bled the front, bled the rear brake, bled the back brake that's actuated by the front. So all new fluid is through those brakes. Now I'm going to move to doing the diff, transmission and engine. Okay, back after a coffee. We need to get into here. And what I'm going to do is use, because you've got to measure that in pretty well, especially the front. 150 mils in the front and the back. There's different oil for each. And the best way to do it is just pour in the exact right amount. So I've got this funnel with a tube where I can get out here and pour, and I've got a little container that I got specially for this job that will put the exact right amount in. So 150 mil after we drop it, 150 mil on the back, and in the transmission it's 400 mil of the transmission fluid. So we'll get onto that. We just have to drop this oil here. Hopefully that'll come out pretty easy. Hopefully it goes straight down. There we go, and there's always a little bit of stuff. If you can see on there, there's a little bit of metal, and that's pretty normal, to be honest. In a gear case, just wipe it off. Where am I? Doesn't have to be super tight, you just nip it. There we go. Come up with something. I've found a Celastic tube that is obviously pointy, and this pokes in there and seals and is quite stuck in there, so that should work. And we'll just poke that in there like that, and then we'll just tip 150 mil in there. So that should work well. Okay, let's get our oil. 150 mil in the measuring cup. There we go, we need to get all of that in the rear diff. It's not a lot, is it? Just take it easy. You can see the oil slowly going down there. It just takes a while. And we've just got that silicon, end of a silicon gun tube to make that fit in there. And it's just a matter of waiting. There you go, it looks like it's on its way down. Okay, we'll fill it back up. We'll put this bung back in. If I can see that, there it is. Two-handed job in there. We'll do the transmission next, because to do the front I've got to put the front wheels on because I'm actually jacking where the drain bung is. So let's do the transmission. The transmission is 400 mils. Let's have a look under here. Where are we? Where are you, drain bung? Where is it? A little bit of metal shavings on there like the others, but that's fine. This is the first 200 going in. I don't have that pointy thing on the end from the silicon gun, so it's going a lot quicker. Hopefully that won't drip out. Okay, we'll jack this up and see if we can get those stands out. Take this side out. Okay, we can drop that down now. So that's it. Bung back in. You can't really measure that, you have to measure it in. So 150 mil is the amount. So that's it. That's all the fluid's done. All the oil's done. I just have to do the radiator, but I'll do that out there on the driveway. Let's get a little bit packed up around here and we'll get this thing moved. So she's idling a bit slow, so I'll have to fix that. I'll change the idle screw. No, well, let's warm her up and we'll drop the water. Just flushing it out. Down here there's a radiator hose you can take off and flush it out, and I've put a few flushes of water through and just let it run out and just cleaned it out. So now I'll put into it this coolant from Polaris, and it's the same as what was in there, so it all mixes, and that's what's next. So let's get that done. This is pre-mix. So you can see it just sucking it down there, a few bubbles coming out. We'll run it until it opens up the thermostat. So finally get to put the side covers on, which means basically the bike is pretty well finished. So I've been looking forward to this time, and now it's just the bits and pieces. So let's get these covers on. Look at that. So she's a full bike again. Hello adventurers, another day and another day on the bike. Today I'm going to be doing the fishing gear, putting a rod holder on the back of it and the tub on the back of it, or the box on the back of it. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to be mounting it here, or well, it's trying to, and we'll see how that goes. So I've got some aluminium and some bits and pieces to make that work. So let's get on with it. So today is the first time I've used the angle grinder after the last time the disc come apart and took out my hand. So yeah, I'll be putting gloves on this time around, which I didn't have last time. But that's going to be an interesting time, remembering that. Let's get this aluminium cut. So that's about where it's going to fit, and then the other one will be on the bottom here, and then hopefully between those two we will be able to put this on, and then I've got a little stopper at the bottom. The one thing I've got to do is I'm going to drill a hole in here so I can bolt it on the back, because I don't want any head sticking out here, because I want the other rest of it flush. And that's what we'll be doing. Should have all the stuff we need. Let's get on to, I've marked the holes on the back, so now we just got to drill those out. This is pretty easy drilling by an aluminium. There you go, you can see that's bolts in there, so that's all flush. And now I can put that, and the bolts aren't going to get in the way of the of this rod holder, and it also spaces it out a little bit. So that's it, that's bolted on, and now I just got to work out where to put this, and we're done. So that's where the rod holders are going to sit. I'm going to use this bit of angle because these rod holders, you've got to be careful because there's nothing on the bottom. If you don't have a reel on your rod, it'll go through. Plus, if your reel vibrates off and the seat vibrates off and the reel comes off, it'll drop out and snap off. So I'm going to stick a bit of aluminium behind here as a little bit of a stopper for that. So hopefully that will stop that happening. Oh, let's get to cutting that up. So I've done these bars. I've put big holes at the back so I can get the bolts in when they're on here, because it makes it a little difficult if you don't. So that's what I've done there. So therefore I can get a socket through that hole. Oh, that one I can't. I'll have to dig those loose from here, I think. So I'm going to have to do these ones bigger. Those I can get a socket through, so that should be good. So I've washed them down with some solvent to get them all clean, and I'm going to paint them all black, and that should match in with the bike. I'll put the box on. It's just tied down with those straps. That's solid as. And gave it a bit of a clean up, as you can see. Actually gave the whole bike a bit of a clean up while I was waiting for these to dry. So these now are painted with satin black, and we'll get them on the back here. And we just put this all together, so it should all fit. Then I've got to just put the stopper on the bottom of it. Come on. That's bolted on now. It's a little bit flimsy on the side here. See that flex? I'm going to put a couple of more bolts in there, but the rest of it is solid as. So we'll just solve that issue, and then we'll be right to go. Then I've just got to work out how to stick. I think I'll stick this on the bottom somehow to stop the rods falling through. Work out how to do that. Okay. But there we go, that's to stop the rods going through, so they'll sit on there, and that's all pretty rigid, so pretty happy with that. We'll see how that works out, but she's all made of aluminium, or mostly, except the bolts, so it should not rust. And I've glued those on so they won't come off. And hopefully that will be good enough for fishing rod holders. Another day. We have finished the bike pretty well as far as mechanical stuff goes. Rod holders are on, the back's on, everything's on. I'm just going to look at putting a light bar on the front of it. And I'm just looking at seeing if I can fit it in where the grill is on the front, just around here. So take this out and put a couple of lights in there. So that's what we're going to look at doing. If not, I'll put it on this bar here, but I'm just going to see if we can get it in there, just sort of make it look a little more integrated. So that's the job for today, if we can get it done. I had a look in here to pull all this out, and I'm not sure if I'll do that anymore. I like to look, I'll just clip that light on there just to see what that looks like. So I've put the two on, I just clipped them on with the clips, but that's what it'll sort of look like, I think, when I'm finished. But just a little bit smaller lights and LEDs. They're actually LEDs, but the traditional sort of LED that you see. Oh, I better go and get some lights. Got the multimeter out. This green wire here is the low beam, and the reason I'm using the low beam, not the high beam, because that's the high beam light, and that's the only one on high beam, and these two are on low beam. So I'm actually going to wire into low beam, so I have the two there and the two at the bottom, because sometimes you have stuff up in here, and this one high beam won't even be doing anything. So I'll put them into, wire them into low beam with a relay going direct back to the battery. And I'll just put a little harness down here to the battery with a fuse on the battery there and go direct. And that will, when you turn on that low beam, it'll flick the relay and turn on the extra lights. I'm back from getting some lights. Didn't quite get the ones I want, but I might have even got some better ones. I think these may actually fit perfectly just right here. We'll take this one here off because that's the one where I was going to stick it. I've just got a feeling that these will fit really perfect, right tucked in like that, one each side. So that's what we're going to try and do, and chuck a loom through. So let's see how that works. I might have to just better attach this piece, but I think that should work out pretty well. So let's see how we get on with that. I've moved them to the middle because they rubbed too hard on there and they weren't square, and so I've just moved them to the middle. It really blocks the same amount of radiator and everything else is the same, but it just allows them to sit a bit better. And I've routed the cords up through these holes, which I'm hoping will work, and then we can hook everything up once I get these all hooked in. It's semi-mounted now, I've just got to tighten it up, but I'm just trying to hide that cord, and it just comes up here. Here's the two ends, and then when I put the cover back on, it should cover all those over, which will be good. And then I can mount the relay in here, and then I just got to take the loom to the back. So in the end, I couldn't get all that relay to fit in there, so I've moved it all up to the front. I'm just finishing off. There's a relay here. I'm just finishing off this, but now if you turn the key on and you turn it onto the low beam, because I want those two lights here and the spotlights going at the same time. If you put onto high beam, just that top one comes on, but there's often stuff in here and you can't see that, so that bottom one will compensate for that. So we'll just put the bike all back together and just tidy it up, and that'll be it. She's done. So let's get into that and get all this cable tied up and all neatened up. So these just clip in. Just takes a bit of wangling them in, and then I'll just finish the last of the front off, and then we'll be done. So it goes under there like that. There we go. And then just get these side clips in. We are finished. Lights are on. So I'll just show you how they work. Just put you down here. You should be able to see them. Turn the key on. And that's on off. And then they should come on low beam. There you go, low beam, and high beam, the top one will come on. And I've got it set up that way because we'll have stuff up on the top here, but so you get these ones and those ones on low beam. And they're quite a bit more, there's quite a bit more light than even the high beam one, so they should work pretty well. So that's it. That's pretty well the bike done. There's not much else to do to it. Probably nothing to do to it really. So she's pretty well finalised and ready for its first trip. So the next video about the bike will either be its first trip, or actually I do have to put in the ignition when it turns up. So I will be putting an ignition upgrade into it, but yeah, but for any main stuff, that's pretty well it. So if you've made it to here, thanks for watching, and we will catch you on the next one.